As humans, we are wired to look at a crowd and immediately sort the faces into two categories: our group and everyone else. Today, that tribal instinct manifests through modern class division. We build gated communities, zone our neighborhoods, and normalize massive gaps in wealth and access. To explain away those gaps, we often rely on a modern version of karma. It is the quiet assumption that people at the bottom of the economic ladder are there because of their own choices, or some cosmic design. Assigning someone's poverty to destiny acts as a psychological shield. It allows those with privilege to look at systemic inequality and feel no obligation to fix it. So when we look at a stranger and ask, "Who is he?" we are rarely asking out of pure curiosity. We are scanning for status, deciding whether to let them in or keep them out. Look at this diagram of the Varna system in 12th century India. It displays a strict social pyramid based entirely on birth, with a tiny elite at the top and a massive working class trapped at the bottom. In this structure, the question Ivanarava, which translates from Kannada to "who is he?" operated as a legal weapon. It was used to identify a person's caste, dictate their total human worth, and strip them of basic rights. A philosopher and statesman named Basavanna recognized the violence of this question. He wrote a poem, a Vachana, that begins with a direct rejection: "Do not make me say, 'Who is this?'" This opening line is a psychological exercise. Basavanna is forcing an internal reckoning, acknowledging his own deeply ingrained biases, feeling remorse, and actively tearing down his own ego before he can see another person clearly. The poem immediately follows with a countermeasure: "He is ours." Spoken in a deeply segregated society, claiming an outsider as your own was an active rebellion against the established order. Centuries later, the French philosopher Jacques Derrida would define a concept called unconditional hospitality. Derrida argued that true hospitality means opening your door to the other without asking for their name, their background, or their social standing. Basavanna enacted this by intentionally stripping away his own upper-class privilege. He publicly identified himself as the son of laborers and marginalized servants, a tactic known as declassing. When a person from the highest tier of society aligns themselves with the lowest, it creates a powerful psychological shockwave. It begins to dissolve the deep-seated inferiority complexes that have been forced onto marginalized communities for generations. This radical kindness relies on the deliberate, psychological dismantling of one's own perceived social status. Basavanna tied this social philosophy directly to economics through the principle of kayaka, the belief that all honest labor possesses inherent dignity and equal worth. This diagram illustrates the economic reality. A massive working class was entirely exploited by a tiny fraction of wealthy elites. By declaring "he is ours," Basavanna called for labor solidarity, uniting divided trades into a single economic force. You cannot have social equality without economic fairness. Recognizing the equal value of all human labor is the prerequisite for a functional society. The poem's final line, "Son of your house," shifts the focus from personal empathy toward a collective identity. It provides the conceptual framework for individual kindness to operate on a systemic level. This philosophy materialized in the Anubhava Mantapa, a 12th century democratic assembly. Here, marginalized laborers, mystics, and women sat together in equal debate, crafting the core policies of their community. 8 centuries later, the architect of the Indian Constitution, B.R. Ambedkar, issued a stark warning about systems that try to function without this kind of baseline equality. Ambedkar argued that any political democracy that grants everyone an equal vote, while ignoring massive social and economic disparities, is guaranteed to collapse. The final line of Basavanna's Vachana acts as a 12th century proto-constitution, aligning with the core requirements of the modern UN human rights doctrine. To fully grasp the mechanics of this poem, we have to look at the linguist A.K. Ramanujan's translation of two key concepts: Stavara, the static physical institution, and Jangama, the moving, living entity. The poem is a total rejection of Stavara. It argues that true value cannot reside in static, immovable things, whether those are literal stone temples or rigid social hierarchies. Instead, the poem embraces Jangama. It establishes the moving, breathing human body itself as the ultimate sacred temple. By moving from "who is he" to "son of the house," the Vachana provides a path to replace rigid social structures with a unified human family.